Hi, everybody, and welcome to what can only be described as a monumental trade deadline day, which deserves a monumental session of the Edward Jones chatting cage. Couldn't do without help, so brought in Tim McMaster. He's in this room in our remote studio operations, the brains of this whole operation. The guys taking the big cuts, Jonathan Mayo, Jim Duquette. If you follow baseball, and I think you do, because you probably wouldn't be watching this if you didn't, it's been a wild last day of July. What's your name? Where are you from? What's your question for Jonathan or Duke?
Hey, this is Caleb from Toronto, Ontario. So there's been talk about the Pirates. What are their chances of making the postseason in a close NL Central if they don't make a move at the trade deadline?
You know what? The Pirates still have I mean, it's a very good team. Where they've come from, to get themselves into the playoff mix has been a tremendous tribute to them and the team that they've built. I felt all along that they needed one more piece, one more pitcher. I don't think this rules them out. I just think it makes it more difficult for them to go deeper into the postseason without at least even an A.J. Burnett, who they had last year, and a little bit more of an experienced starting pitcher that maybe goes to the top of their rotation.
Yeah, I think if Garrett Cole had been healthy the whole year, you may feel more comfortable as a front of the rotation guy. Obviously, he got the ball in the last game of the series against the Cardinals, so I don't think they have a fear of giving the ball, but they're right in the hunt. Keep in mind that the Pirates didn't make a move last deadline either. They got Marlon Byrd and Justin Morneau, who, granted, didn't do a whole lot for them, but after the deadline during the waiver period. So a lot can happen after today to help playoff teams out.
We got a fan here. What's your name? Where are you from? What's your question for Jonathan and Duke?
Hey guys, my name's Dan. I'm from Long Island. I was wondering, with all the activity today, who are the top 5 prospects that have been dealt?
It's really been Addison Russell and then everybody else. That was obviously a little while ago already. But I think Addison Russell is now with the Cubs and gives the Cubs, 47 infield prospects at the upper levels. They've got some depth there. And then after that, there is a drop-off. You've got Jake Thompson, who the Rangers got. You've got Billy McKinney, who was also in that deal. Trying to think who else I would put in that top 5. Those are the top 3 or 4. I think James Ramsey probably belongs in that list, and then now Eduardo Rodriguez probably sneaks somewhere into that top 5. Probably maybe a little bit ahead of the last 2 guys I mentioned.
It's been mostly major league deals.
Yeah,
that's the one thing that's surprising. The deadline, usually when you see teams that are in it, you see prospects coming back. Teams are reluctant to pull from their major league roster, but specifically the A's deal to Boston with Lester and Cespedes, no big prospects there. And then the Red Sox moved Lackey to the Cardinals, and there were no prospects coming from St. Louis that Alan Craig and Joe Kelly end up coming back. So one of those kind of rare deadline deals where you're not seeing a ton of prospects moved on a day like this, which you normally do.
It's not your typical prospect feeding frenzy deadline day.
What's your name? Where are you from? What's your question for Duke and Mayo?
Hey guys, I'm Brian from Florida, and I just was wondering, do you guys think the Yankees have enough to compete for the postseason?
The Yankees, did you say?
Yes.
Yep.
Do they have enough pitching?
Yes, the Yankees.
Enough pieces.
Enough pieces. Yeah, well, I do think that they have enough to stay competitive in this division. I think the issue is going to be, can they hang on with their starting rotation? I think their position players are going to have to basically go as is. I like the move with Drew that betters them defensively for sure. I just don't know about their pitching. With Pineda coming back, hopefully soon, that'll bolster the rotation a little bit. From that point on, I never rule out the Yankees. When they have potential to do deals, I think they have an advantage in August as players get through waivers. Some of those higher-priced contracts, they usually go unclaimed in August. That usually, I think, gives the Yankees an advantage in that area. So I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to stay in this, that they make another deal.
The only thing they don't have is prospects, really, to make any kind of major deal. They have some, but most of them, the guys that were supposed to have taken the big step forward, Mason Williams, and Gary Sanchez has been okay, but there's still questions of whether he can catch. Mason Williams has not had a good year. Tyler Austin hasn't hit since the huge year he had a little while ago. Slade Heathcock can't stay healthy. So they don't have guys at the upper levels that a lot of teams will be looking for. Some of their talent is a little bit lower down. Guys that they got from last year's draft, I guess, could be potential. A guy like Aaron Judge or Eric Jagielo, their first rounders from last year, who both of whom have had good seasons, could be in somewhat of a mix, but they don't have a lot of pieces to make the kinds of deals, in terms of impact kind of deals that they might need if they want to try to bring in a high-priced starting pitcher, say.
Guys, another trade that we're hearing about now, the Astros sending Jared Kozart, one of the young arms, and Enrique Hernandez to the Marlins. Surprised at all, Kozart, a young arm there with the Astros, that they would trade him away?
Well, I mean, everybody in the Astros is young at this point, right?
Fair,
so it's
fair.
not, if they're going to be sellers at all, that's what they have to offer. And the Marlins make kind of a fit, because if they're going to make a move, they're going to want to bring in a young player that they can control for a while. They're not going to be players at this point, I think, in any of the big ticket players that we've been talking about, because they don't want to be saddled with the contract, nor can they sign guys to an extension. Maybe for a couple-month rental they would have been in on it, but I think in a lot of ways Kozart fits the Marlins. Once they get everybody back, they're hanging around. Kozart helps them now and for long term, and you start thinking about some of the young pitchers they have, and you get Fernandez back. So this is kind of this helps us now, but we're really looking not just now, we're looking into the future.
When you look at the other side of it now, we're seeing, Jonathan, it's Colin Moran and Jake Marisnick going the other way. So certainly the Astros getting some prospects there on the other side.
Yeah.
Was that a whistle, Jonathan? Did you actually
I didn't whistle. I think Duke whistled.
was my whistle.
But my eyebrow raise would have whistled if I had a whistle.
His eyebrow raised as I whistled.
We work together that way. I do the visual effects. He does the sound effects. Are you ready? Here comes the
That's
eyebrows.
the analysis that I wanted, by the way. Whistles and eyebrows.
Whistles and eyebrows. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Moran and Marisnick now are their top two hitting prospects, but Moran's had an okay season, not great. Obviously, an advanced college hitter, was a top of the first round pick just a year ago, and Marisnick has tremendous amounts of tools and has kind of flirted with putting it all together at different times. But they're both young. Marisnick, they probably try to find a place for him in the lineup now, see what he can do. Moran's a little bit further away, but not too far away. But if you're going to trade a young guy, and Tim, you were saying, well, why would they trade a young guy away? Because you get two young bats in return, and you have some pitching depth in your system.
This was a blockbuster Edward Jones Chatting Cage. I want to thank Jonathan Mayo and Jim Duquette for bringing all their expertise and knowledge. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us.
Nice to be here, boys.
It was a good time. I want to thank Tim McMaster for basically shouldering the load and carrying the heavy weights. I want to thank you for being with us as always. We'll see you next time on what might be an even more grandiose version of the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. Who knows? We'll see you then.